What does it mean to fight for one's freedom? What does it take to birth a nation? Our story begins in the mid-18th century, in an era of exploration and colonization where the seeds of a forthcoming revolution were being sown across the Atlantic. We find ourselves in the 13 colonies, territories under British rule, scattered along the eastern seaboard of what we now know as the United States of America. Here in these colonies, the air was ripe with tension and discontent. The British Crown, in a bid to recover from the financial strains of the 7 Years' War, imposed a series of taxes on the colonists. The Stamp Act of 1765 was one such measure, a direct tax that required colonists to pay for a British stamp on every piece of printed paper they used. This act was met with fierce resistance, sparking the famous rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." The tension escalated further with the Boston Tea Party in 1773. In a defiant act of protest against the Tea Act, colonists disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded British ships and dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. This audacious act of rebellion sent ripples of shock across the Atlantic, marking a turning point in the simmering conflict. In retaliation, the British Crown enacted the Coercive Acts, known to the colonists as the Intolerable Acts. These laws aimed to punish the Massachusetts colonists for their defiance in the Tea Party protest. However, these punitive measures only served to further unite the colonies against British rule. And so, the colonies found themselves on the precipice of a monumental struggle. A struggle for their rights, their liberties, and their very identities. The colonists were no longer just British subjects, they were beginning to see themselves as a distinct entity, a union of states with a shared cause. Thus, the stage was set for the first war that America would fight, not as a collection of colonies, but as a united front. So began the American Revolutionary War, a clash of wills and ideologies that would determine the fate of a nation. In the heart of New England, in the tiny towns of Lexington and Concord, the first shots of this monumental conflict were fired in 1775. These were not grand battles with thousands of soldiers, but rather small skirmishes between colonial militiamen and British redcoats. The colonists, often referred to as Minutemen for their ability to be ready at a moment's notice, were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Yet, they stood their ground, marking the first instances of American resistance against British military force. As word spread of these confrontations, the tension between the colonies and the British Crown escalated rapidly. These isolated incidents of resistance quickly snowballed into a full-scale war. A war that was about more than just territory or taxes. It was a war for self-governance, for liberty, and for the right to control their own destiny. In the midst of this escalating conflict, a figure emerged who would become synonymous with the American struggle for independence. George Washington, a veteran of the French and Indian War, was appointed as the commander-in-chief of the newly formed Continental Army. His task was monumental, to unite a disparate group of colonial militias into a cohesive fighting force capable of standing up to the might of the British Empire. Washington's steadfast leadership and strategic acumen would prove crucial in the years to come, guiding the fledgling nation through its darkest hours. His appointment signaled a shift from sporadic resistance to organized warfare, marking the true commencement of the Revolutionary War. The war had begun, and the colonies were now in a fight for their very existence. The journey to independence was fraught with uncertainty and danger, but the seeds of rebellion had been sown, and there was no turning back. The stage was set for one of the most significant conflicts in human history, a war that would not only shape the destiny of a nation, but also redefine the concept of freedom and democracy for generations to come. Every war has its turning points, moments where the course of history is forever altered. For the American Revolutionary War, one such moment came in the winter of 1777 to 1778. In the heart of Pennsylvania, nestled among the Schuylkill River and Valley Creek, lay a place of immense historical significance, Valley Forge. This wasn't a battlefield marked by the clamor of swords and the roar of cannons, but a winter encampment, a place of endurance and transformation for the Continental Army. Led by General George Washington, around 12,000 troops entered Valley Forge in December 1777. The conditions they faced were brutal. The winter was harsh, supplies were scarce, and morale was low. Yet amidst these trials, an unexpected beacon of hope arrived. a Prussian military officer named Baron Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben. Baron von Steuben was a game-changer. He recognized the potential in this ragtag group of soldiers and took up the mantle of turning them into a disciplined fighting force. With the precision of a master craftsman, he drilled the troops, instilling in them the essentials of military maneuvers and battlefield tactics. And it wasn't just about the physical training. Baron von Steuben's methods fostered a sense of unity and camaraderie among the troops. The soldiers emerged from that winter, not just as a well-trained army, but as a cohesive unit, ready to take on the mighty British forces. Simultaneously, across the Atlantic, another crucial development was taking place. France, intrigued by the American resistance, decided to throw its support behind the colonies. The French alliance brought with it not just military aid, but also a much-needed morale boost for the fledgling nation. As the winter thawed and spring arrived, the Continental Army marched out of Valley Forge, not as the same ragged force that had entered it, but as a rejuvenated army, brimming with newfound resolve and determination. The tide had turned, and the colonies were no longer fighting a losing battle. With renewed strength and international support, the Continental Army marched towards victory. This marked the beginning of a series of decisive battles that would ultimately lead to the birth of a new nation. A pivotal moment in this journey was the Battle of Cowpens in South Carolina. Here, General Daniel Morgan cleverly used the terrain and the audacity of the American soldiers to deliver a crushing blow to the British forces. This victory had a significant impact on British morale and marked a turning point in the Southern campaign. Moving forward to the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, General Nathanael Greene's strategy of attrition wore down the British forces, further weakening their hold in the South. Though technically a British victory, the heavy losses they suffered made it a Pyrrhic victory at best. But the strategic brilliance of the Continental Army was most evident in the Battle of Yorktown, the last major battle of the war. Under the leadership of General George Washington, the Continental Army, with French assistance, laid siege to the British forces under Lord Cornwallis. Using a combination of land and sea forces, they effectively trapped the British, leaving them no option but to surrender. This victory at Yorktown in 1781 marked the end of major hostilities and laid the groundwork for the eventual peace treaty. However, credit cannot solely be given to the military strategies. The resilience and determination of the American soldiers played a crucial role in these victories. Despite facing numerous challenges such as harsh winters, lack of resources, and an initially superior enemy, they remained strong. Their unwavering faith in the cause of independence was a beacon of hope that guided them through the darkest hours of the war. Through a combination of strategic brilliance, international alliances, and sheer determination, the Continental Army paved the way to victory. Their efforts not only ended the war but also gave birth to a new nation, a republic built on the principles of liberty and democracy. The war had been won, and a new nation was born. As the dust settled, the United States of America emerged, standing tall and ready to carve its own destiny on the world stage. The American Revolutionary War was more than just a historical event. It was the birth of a nation. This conflict, fought between 1775 and 1783, marked a turning point not just for the 13 colonies, but for the world. The war, as we've seen, was a struggle for sovereignty, for the right to self-governance. The colonists, driven by a yearning for freedom and a belief in their rights, waged a war that would change the face of the globe. The echoes of their battle cries still resonate in our ears, reminding us of their courage and resolve. The culmination of this 8-year-long struggle was the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783. This was no ordinary treaty. It was a testament to the colonists' resilience, a symbol of their victory. It officially ended the war and recognized the sovereignty of the United States of America. The underdog, against all odds, had triumphed. But the legacy of the Revolutionary War extends far beyond the signing of a treaty. The war set the stage for the establishment of a new nation, a nation built on the principles of freedom, equality, and justice. The United States of America rose from the ashes of war, a phoenix reborn. The war also served as a catalyst for change around the world. It inspired other nations to rise against their oppressors, to fight for their rights. The flame kindled by the American Revolution spread far and wide, igniting the fires of change. So the First War of America was not just a war. It was a revolution, a movement that birthed a new nation. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a reminder of what we can achieve when we stand united. The legacy of the Revolutionary War is not confined to history books. It is alive in the principles that guide us, in the freedoms we enjoy, in the nation we call home. The First War of America wasn't just a war, it was a revolution that birthed a new nation, one that would go on to shape the course of world history.